There has been some turbulence in the news recently when it comes to air travel for Canadian passengers. As of midnight Monday, discount airline Lynx ceased operations. In a release, the carrier said over the past year, Lynx Airlines has faced a number of significant headwinds, including rising operating costs, high fuel prices, exchange rates, increasing airport charges, and a difficult economic and regulatory environment. Here to discuss the failure of Lynx and matters related to Canadian air travel, we're joined by Gabor Lukacs, who is the president of Air Passenger Rights. Good morning, Gabor.
Good morning, Crystal.
Now, with the failure of Lynx Airlines, this means that Canadians have one fewer option for air travel. How does that concern you as president of Air Passenger Rights?
I'm concerned about the lack of choice or the reduction of choice because it may result in higher airfares.
Okay, and what would you like to see change to make more of a level playing field for low cost and, say, conventional air carriers?
I would like to see the Canadian domestic market opened for at least select international carriers, such as from US, from New Zealand, from Australia, from the UK, and from the European Union. And I would also like to see consistent and strict enforcement of passenger rights, because for a new player, having to compete with other airlines that don't play by the books and don't play by the rules, that creates a significant barrier to entry. Passengers will have less patience with a new airline that breaks the rules. But the existing airlines, Air Canada and WestJet, systematically break the rules when it comes to passenger rights. And that's part of their business model, so it seems. This creates a race to the bottom where anyone who is trying to run a decent airline is going to run into economic problems because their competitors are breaking the rules systematically.
That's interesting. Could you give kind of an example of how a major airline might be breaking the rules and that would impact, how Canadians would have their choice with who they could fly with?
WestJet is particularly problematic, but also Flair when it comes to rebooking passengers whose flights have been canceled or otherwise significantly affected by a disruption. Under the law, if the airline is unable to rebook the passenger within a given amount of time on its own network and its own partners, then the airline has to buy the passenger a ticket on a competitor airline. That is not happening, that is not being enforced. And that, of course, creates a reliability concern. But in that kind of environment, new entrants who may try to actually follow the law, who actually try to do the right thing and comply with this obligation, would be at a disadvantage economically. And if they don't follow this obligation, then passengers affected by disruptions are going to be upset at a new airline, and a new airline is going to lose lots of goodwill, far more goodwill than an existing airline may be losing.
Well, the obvious answer, of course, is, well, let's enforce all airlines equally and make sure that they all have to, quote unquote, pay the price for any mistakes they make. So I guess, how would you like to see enforcement on airlines change?
I would like to actually see the federal government take the law as written seriously. Currently, we already have laws that do permit quite steep fines. Parliament authorized increasing the maximum fine to $250,000 per violation per incident, but the government is not implementing those fines. The fines are not even in the regulations, even though they are in the statute, and the existing fines being issued are just laughable. They are just pocket money for the airlines.
Well, finally, Gabor, bringing us back to the beginning with Lynx, what's going to happen to those passengers who purchased tickets with that airline?
Passengers who purchase tickets using a credit card may be able to obtain a refund of services that have been paid but not received through statutory chargeback on their credit card under provincial legislation. If they use a different method, it may be a challenge. Some banks may be able to offer them some help, but credit cards do have to offer this protection in the vast majority of Canadian provinces. We do have a step-by-step guide on our website, airpassengerrights.ca, on statutory chargeback. The important part is you do it in writing, not on the phone, not by talking, but you follow strict steps set out in the law of your province in forcing the financial institution to put back the money into your account eventually.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lukacs, for this conversation this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Gabor Lukacs, president of Air Passenger Rights, and we have put a link to their website on ours.